If the facts are true, I believe Exxon's actions are shocking and outrageous. And it's difficult to think of a company that could have set back humanity for decades and perhaps permanently, but that's what happened here. In this case, Exxon scientists knew that climate change was happening, that fossil fuels were causing climate change, and not only did they deny that and spread uncertainty and confusion about the science, they then took actions to plan and take advantage of global warming. This is beyond hypocrisy. I'm not even sure what to call it, but I do believe there should be investigation under the RICO racketeering statutes of the federal government to see if they should be prosecuted for their actions.
And Congressman Liu, what most stunned you in terms of the information that's come out now in the recent exposés?
That their scientists were on the cutting edge of research on climate science, that they had done tremendous work, that they confirmed global warming was happening, and then top executives essentially shut that down and embarked on a disinformation and confusion campaign simply for profits, at the same time knowing that this could really damage all of humanity. And to me, just how shocking this was really was what stood out to me.
A recent investigative series by the Pulitzer Prize-winning news organization InsideClimateChange.org has uncovered that decades ago, Exxon was actually on the cutting edge of climate research. This is a clip from the PBS series Frontline, which partnered with Inside Climate News on the project.
We found a trail of documents that go back to 1977. Exxon knew carbon dioxide was increasing in the atmosphere, that combustion of fossil fuels was driving it, and that this posed a threat to Exxon. At that time, Exxon understood very quickly that governments would probably take action to reduce fossil fuel consumption. They're smart people, great scientists, and they saw the writing on the wall.
One Exxon research project outfitted an oil tanker with equipment to measure CO2 levels in the atmosphere and the ocean.
We were collecting data, the southern Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, and the western Indian Ocean. Basically, every hour we would get several measurements, so we had, I called it a data monster.
Today, Exxon says the study had nothing to do with CO2 emissions, but scientists involved remembered it differently.
We were committed, we were doing some serious science. It was a significant budget, I would say on the scale of $1 million a year. And that was a lot of money in 1979.
That was Ed Garvey from 1978 to 1983. He was a researcher at Exxon, where he helped start the company's greenhouse gas research program. Last month, he appeared on Democracy Now! And talked about how he felt when Exxon started funding climate deniers.
I just think it was an opportunity that was missed, that having developed this knowledge in-house, Exxon was in position to lead the discussion as how to deal with the problem, and instead they really chose to deny the problem. And I think that was really a missed opportunity.
Again, that was Exxon Scientists' Ed Garvey, which brings us to Bill McKibben, who, well, Bill, it's nice that you're back home after your arrest at your local Exxon station for protesting the information, protesting what you've learned from the information that's come out in both the Los Angeles Times series as well as Inside Climate Change. Talk about what has most surprised you? I mean, you're hard to surprise. You've been working on this issue for years now. What is most chilling, if you will, in these documents that have been released?
For me, Amy, the thing that really gets me is the kind of realization that Exxon is probably the one institution on Earth that could have short-circuited this 25 years of pretend faux debate that we've been having about climate change. If in 1989, when Jim Hansen from NASA had stood up before Congress and said, yeah, the planet is warming, if Exxon at that point had said, you know what, he's right, our internal science, which is very strong in this field, confirms everything that he's saying, the world has a terrific problem, well, we wouldn't have solved global warming by now, but we'd be well on the way. We would not have engaged in a quarter century of denial and debate. Instead, that's precisely what Exxon funded and underwrote. The most compelling moment of that probably came in, I think, 1997, when the CEO of Exxon stood up before the most powerful people in China and told them that the planet was probably cooling, and that the computer models, which Exxon was using at that very moment to guide their own investments, he told them the computer models didn't work. This was tragic. And results
Bill, if I can interrupt a second, we have a clip from 1996, around that time, of the Exxon CEO, Lee Raymond, speaking about global warming. Let's hear that.
Proponents of the global warming theory say that higher levels of greenhouse gases are causing world temperatures to rise and that burning fossil fuels is the reason. But scientific evidence remains inconclusive as to whether human activities affect the global climate. Many scientists agree there's ample time to better understand climate systems and consider policy options. So there's simply no reason to take drastic action now.
The impact of what Exxon did has played out over 25 years and will play out over geologic time. There's 47 people dead in the Philippines today after the record 20th strong typhoon in the northern hemisphere dropped 4 feet of rain, almost unimaginable across the Philippines. But something like that happens every day now. We've melted the Arctic. We've changed the chemistry of the oceans. This is their legacy. As we move forward, still trying to keep this from getting any more out of control than it is, it's going to be incredibly important to break the power of the fossil fuel industry. That's why there's this huge divestment campaign that California just joined their retirement funds in participating in. That'll help begin to break their power. That's why we do things like fight pipelines and fracking wells and things to try and reduce their power. But man, if only they had told the truth to begin with. That's why, I mean, I went to get arrested just because I was afraid that these remarkable exposés at InsideClimate News and the LA Times would disappear into the media clutter of our lives. This is one of the, if not the most important investigative coups in decades. And these reporters' remarkable work deserves to become part of the kind of common understanding of the entire planet about the most significant crisis human beings have ever wandered into.
Well, Bill, can you explain exactly what you did? This action was what, last Thursday?
It was last week. Amy, it was not, this was, not the bridge at Selma. I just sat down in front of the Exxon Mobil station, not far away in Vermont, and with a very kind owner who I was not trying to cause problems to. In fact, I gave him $100 to make up for any income he might have lost while I was blocking his pump. And eventually the police came and took me away and charged me with trespass. And all it was, as I said at the time, was an effort to get people to read these stories. I'm not sure how well it worked. Later that day, my wife told me that it had been the #1 trending thing on Facebook. But then, a couple hours later, she told me it had been replaced by a video of a corgi dog barking at a miniature pumpkin. So, who knows? But we're going to do everything we can, everyone who's working on these issues, to try and make sure that this doesn't somehow disappear. Such gratitude to the congressman and his colleague in California, and of course to Bernie Sanders for pressing hard for what needs to happen next, which is a full-on investigation by our Department of Justice and by departments of justice all over the world into the conduct of this, remember, largest corporation in the world. Exxon has made more money 3 of the last 4 years than any company in the history of money, okay? So it's not like this is some small exception or some outlier or whatever. This is the dead-on heart of the fossil fuel industry, the people who've done everything they can to keep us from addressing climate change.